Next speaker is Ruthanne Crapo, who teaches ethics, social ethics, political philosophy, feminist philosophy at Minnesota Community and Technical College. Her areas of specialization include existential phenomenology, deconstruction, and French feminism. She has published works in the fields of ethics and sexual ethics, and is particularly interested in the intersections of sex and gender, religion, and land. She was born in South Korea and now resides in Minneapolis with her family, where she enjoys teaching students whose diversity and courage boundlessly inspires her work in life.
Continental philosophy, particularly the strains that generate from the work of Nietzsche, Heidegger, Foucault, Levinas, Deleuze, and Derrida, writes prolifically about the end of philosophy, the death of God, the death of the author, and the death of man. While death, man, and God fascinate, what this tradition may dismiss is anything regarding the existence of bodies of those who are not God or men. Can such a tradition, fascinated with its own existence, or bodies of those within its own reflection, help us in our discussion today? Indeed, in the history of philosophy, animal bodies have received remote or destructive consideration, beginning with Aristotle's justification of their uses to serve men, to Kant's judgment that humans have an indirect duty to animals as opposed to a direct duty toward other humans. Our best exemplars of positive animal rights come from the utilitarian schools, of course, of Bentham, Mill, and Sigwich, of which Peter Singer is, of course, a noted contemporary. Yet even these classic utilitarians confine animal rights to the margins of their discussions. But philosophy in the 1970s, post Peter Singer and Regan, has begun to consider seriously animal ethics, liberation, and rights. Indeed, Singer is quick to note that often philosophical arguments came first and activism followed. While the continental tradition has seemed the most silent and human-centric, or maybe the Singerian term would be speciesist, in thinking, some are arguing, even within this dismissal of animals, is embedded within this philosophical discourse, the possibility to rethink the inclusion of the animal other. For a tradition that likes to think, it instigates a more avant-garde, radical, and politically engaged approach to philosophical issues than its Anglican-American counterparts. It may be, despite its ignorance of the animal body, more theoretically capable to deconstruct assumptions of animal bodies, human bodies, and the metaphysical project that makes these distinctions violent and politically dismissed. Continental philosophy's main object of deconstruction has been the metaphysical project of reason, language, and desire, as typified in the straight language property European thinking male subject. This critique of metaphysical thinking has led to the advancement of cultural studies, feminism, and critical race theory. Therefore, it seemed a fruitful collaboration with animal studies might be possible. In this paper, I suggest continental philosophy's attack on the man of reason, to borrow Genevieve Boy's term, is also a defense of the animal body, insofar as man legitimates dominance and power within a discourse of reason and a construction of truth in his own image. He also legitimates the sacrifice and subjugation of the body of the other, including the animal other. I begin this paper with a brief survey of continental philosophy's treatment of the animal and its critical engagements. I second offer Michel Foucault's investigation of madness and animality, in Madness and Civilization, and Luce Irigaray's reading of sexual difference, and how the animal difference may have necessary correlations to the ontological project of rethinking bodies, nature, and binary opposition. Finally, I offer my own reflections on the usefulness of Foucault's and Irigaray's critique and how feminists can extend this discussion. The continental animal body. If Aristotle's description of man as a rational animal has been a history that has made much of man's rationality and little of his animality, then Nietzsche is a necessary counterpart. Nietzsche made much of human animality and little of human rationality, returning man back to his animality and away from the Christian images of God. Indeed, Zarathustra is like the eagle's pride and the serpent's wisdom, not the eagle or serpent like Zarathustra. Part of Nietzsche's inversion or transvaluation of values was to draw attention away from traditional philosophy, commonly termed the love of wisdom or truth. With his nihilism, he investigates the truth of error, or the love of wisdom's opposite, deceit. In Beyond Good and Evil, he portrays the exemplar of deceit as woman. Quote, "From the beginning, nothing has been more alien, repugnant, or hostile to woman than truth. Her great art is the lie. Her highest concern is appearance and beauty. While seemingly slanderous, that's end quote, by the way, while seemingly slanderous, this may be high praise given Nietzsche's supposition that appearance may be a source of error, or in his case, truth, a deliberate maneuver against Plato's contempt for the deceit of icons or art in general. But I suggest, like the woman, the animal is also a source of alternative knowledge, art or appearance or error, which eludes the absolute of the Platonic form. And thus, these deceivers, the animal and the woman, may be the ideal guides, equating the weakness of Christian moralism and Western corruption with domesticated animals, stupid in their passivity, weakness, and breeding. He looks to animal exemplars like the tiger, whose constancy and determination evokes a new kind of morality and strength and life that is beyond good and evil. What Nietzsche unravels is a positive notion of knowing outside the boundaries of traditional rationality and morality. Martin Heidegger spurned Nietzsche's reduction of humans to animals and instead focused on the history of metaphysics that claims as man's essence his supposed capacity to reason. In his 1929-30 Freiburg lecture, The Fundamental Concept of Metaphysics, he calls for a rethinking of the distinction between humans and animals as their relations to, quote, the world. According to Heidegger, animals are, quote, poor in the world, end quote, as they are unable to grasp other beings as such. By attending to this fundamental difference, humans can shepherd and attend the world of being as beings. Despite his best attempts to move away from anthropocentrism, Heidegger ultimately underestimates his own binary thinking about animals in relation to human perception and placement in the world. But Heidegger's emphasis on non-anthropocentric thinking might create the conditions of possibility to call for an alternative way of thinking. For the sake of time, I'm going to move straight to Foucault's analysis. I begin by offering two exemplars. Michel Foucault in Madness and Civilization argues a comparison between the mad animal, a co-relationship that offers a critical understanding of the madman's body and the animal body, and our compulsion to control both groups. Beginning in the Middle Ages, Foucault portrays animals as subject to humans, such as the iconic portrayal of Adam naming them in the garden, an act which legitimates them with symbolic human worth. But in the early Renaissance period, he notes a surprising reversal of the beast as he is set free. Now the beast is hunting the human. In this reversal, humans are portrayed darkly as mutated animals or hybrid animals, revealing a secret nature of man. As Foucault writes, quote, "It is animality that reveals the dark rage, the sterile madness that lies in man's heart." End quote. But this dark animal, human reversal, also has a positive role, as those dark animal humans also possess a type of difficult, hermetic, esoteric, or forbidden knowledge. Foucault lists several examples of mad luminaries who are valued for their clairvoyance that their absurdity or their animality offers, culminating in the image of the Struteflare, Naviculae, or the ship of fools. I surmise that Foucault's notion of the wisdom of fools can be similarly portrayed in the biblical symbol of the serpent itself. In one moment, wise and cunning, speaking to the woman, next to the tree of knowledge of good and evil. In another, it is a lifted source of healing for the Israelite exiles in the wilderness. And it is the exemplar of shrewdness Jesus advises his disciples that they must possess. In the apocalypse, the world will sink into universal fury and victory, concludes Foucault. And this will not belong to God or the devil, it belongs to madness.